I'm Nazia Zaidi, Product Manager for Oracle Audit Vault and Database Firewall. In panelist, I have my colleagues from AVDF Development, Vijay Medi, along with Mahesh Rao. I have Angeline, who is outbound PM for India and APAC. So there are the chances you might be interacting with her on day-to-day basis on different requirements of AVDF. Like I said, this call is being recorded. You can scan the QR code. After a couple of days, this recording will be available on this page, which is a series of India APAC AVDF Cafe series. Okay, so today's agenda is we will a little bit talk about what is DSPM and why it is required, because a lot of companies, organizations, analysts, they are talking about data security posture management. So we will talk about how this data security posture management is relevant from the AVDF perspective and from the database monitoring, activity monitoring solution perspective. I'll give a little bit overview of what AVDF, because every time in AVDF Cafe, I have a few new attendees and they would really want to have a high level overview is what exactly this solution is. Followed by overview, we will talk about few marquee features or rather new features since we met last. So I will talk about some great features that we have come up in from last couple of RUs, and finally, how you can stay connected. So let's start with database security posture management. Like I said, what it is and why. So how industry is defining this particular term, which is data security posture management. So industry definition is you should be able to discover your sensitive data in whatever form it is available and wherever it is available. Okay, so you should have visibility of where your sensitive data is, whether it's structured or unstructured. Then the second thing what analysts are defining is that once you know where data is, then you should be able to discover who are those privileged users who have access to that data. Okay, so where is that sensitive data and who has access to that data, followed by how that data has been used. Okay, how privileged users are using those sensitive data, or there are other users who are using these sensitive data. And finally, you need to know that what is the security posture of where this sensitive data is stored. Okay, so these are the four important things that industry or analysts are defining for data security posture management. Okay, so following the industry definition, I would like to give a little bit light on how AVDF has evolved from DAM, which is Database Activity Monitoring Solution, to the Database Security Posture Management kind of a solution, because that's what our way forward, right? So industry evaluation is industry started asking for audit log consolidation and management, like activity audit consolidation. And that was the time when Oracle introduced Audit Vault, which was like a centralized audit log collection solution. So if you have a different Oracle databases and you have audit logs available on those databases, so those can be centralized at one single place using Audit Vault feature. Then industry started talking about real-time database activity monitoring, which is DAM, but along with prevention, right? So DAM term started coming in industry, and that's where AVDF introduced not only consolidating the audit logs from different databases, but also introduced the network-based SQL statement monitoring along with blocking. And that's where Audit Vault or AV became AVDF, which is Audit Vault Database Firewall. then industry started talking about, okay, a single solution to monitor and block all the database activity monitoring, etc., along with some blocking capability, but it should be heterogeneous. It should not be like fragmented or a different solution for different databases. And that's where we introduce our AVDF 20 major release, where we expanded our platform support for other areas, other platforms like Sybase and Postgres, MongoDB, etc. And we introduced AVDF, complete AVDF 20, completely revamped solution with fresh UI, etc. So that's where AVDF 20 was released almost more than a couple of years back. And then now industry started talking about data security posture management along with how that sensitive data is used, right? So you see there is a relation between security posture management along with activity monitoring, like how that data is being used. And they started talking about DSPM. So it was very, I would say, logical move for AVDF to move from just being a database activity monitoring solution to security posture management solution. And there in RU9, we introduced security assessment functionality, which is like a fleet-wide security assessment and drift management across your Oracle databases. So security assessment along with AVDF, that how AVDF evolved from just being a database activity monitoring solution to the database activity monitoring solution with DSPM, and how AVDF is defining DSPM. So like I said, analyst or industry is defining data security posture management. If you notice data security, but from AVDF perspective, it's all about database, right? So our functionality is more focusing on the database. So it's a database security posture management. So we are starting with very first step that you need to assess your database configuration and identify drift if there is a baseline defined there, right? Identify any drift or deviation basis on the baseline which you have defined. So knowing how your security posture of that Oracle database is. And once you know that, okay, you have assessed your configuration, whether this is as per the best practices or it is as per industry standard or Oracle best practice, etc. Once you know your security posture, now the second step is that you would like to know where your sensitive data is. So from the database perspective, it is basically database objects. So where those objects are there which are holding sensitive data related to, let's say, PI or health related information or financial related information, etc. And then followed by discovering who are privileged users in your database who has access to different sensitive objects. Okay, so discovering your privileged users, their entitlements, that's the another task. And finally, how that data has been used from these privileged users. Okay, so getting a quick insight on what activities are happening on your database. So from the AVDF perspective, database security posture management will have these four, I would say, major pillars, which completes our positioning or a solutioning of database security posture management. So AVDF with DSPM, you can, so AVDF is like a centralized solution at one place. And then you have a different pillars. So you have security assessment, and then you do the user entitlement, like who has access to what, and the drift detection for both security assessment as well as user entitlement. Discovering what is where your sensitive data is. So basically data discovery, and then finding out how that data is being used by collecting audit logs from different sources, as well as putting a protection layer or monitoring network-based SQL statements, which together this solution available, you can either deploy on-premise or you deploy on cloud. So that completes that AVDF with DSPM solutioning. So new positioning, I would say that you start with assess and discover, which is basically you need to know what is your security posture, and then followed by where your sensitive data is and privileged user. Followed by, once you know how you are doing from your assessment and discovery perspective, you start putting your audit policies, that what kind of activity you would like to monitor, what kind of audit policies you want to enable, etc. And once you have those audit policies enabled and decided that what you want to monitor, you start having your reports and alerts generated, right? Reports on different database activities, security posture, alert on any suspicious activity or any unknown activity, etc. And once you'll start getting those reports and alerts, and now you have a better visibility of what exactly happening in your system, then you start putting your prevention or protection layer, that what kind of activity you do not want to be happening on your system. So you start putting your protection and prevention layer. And after some time, and again, you would like to assess and discover, like, how you are doing from the security posture perspective on your databases or configuration perspective. Is there any new sensitive data discovered? Is there any new privileged user created, etc.? So, and then again, you start fine tuning your audit policies, your reports, alerts, and protection layer. So this is kind of an ongoing process. You can do it, let's say, every 3 months or 3 months or so, to strengthen your entire database activity monitoring along with database security posture management. From here, I would like to a little bit talk in detail each feature. But I will just highlight some of important ones. I would say that from the assess and discovery perspective, when we do security assessment, it's a fleet-wide database security posture management for Oracle databases specifically. And we have hundreds of test cases available, which are mapped back to the compliance requirements or security standards like CIS or STIG or Oracle best practices. And these mapping, then we recommend, okay, we categorize whether how are you doing, how is that particular Oracle database configuration is doing, and then giving you recommendation. So that's a very, you must have heard DBSAT. That's a database security assessment tool from Oracle, which is freely available for you to deploy on Oracle databases and assess your configurations of your Oracle database. What we have done is that with AVDF, because AVDF had a value of doing everything at enterprise level, whereas DBSAT had a value of doing a very comprehensive assessment of each Oracle database. So together we combine these solutions. So with DBSAT, through AVDF, you are getting a fleet-wide database security posture management solution. Once, like I said, you assess and discover, you start defining audit policies and monitoring. Very important part is that for Oracle Unified Audit Policies, you can centrally manage or provision those audit policy from AVDF itself. Again, it's like at one place you have, you can decide that what kind of a policy you would like to really enable back to your Oracle database, etc. So that's a very unique capability that you get from AVDF. Another, which is very important and unique capability I would like to highlight here, under the auditing and monitoring is a before after value. So before after value is required. It's a requirement by many compliance, regulatory compliance, right? And we started with giving that capability from Oracle, and then we moved it to SQL Server. So now that functionality is available for Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server. In coming slide, you will see that we have extended that functionality for MySQL also from RU11 onwards. And there are different source of, you can have audit logs in different sources, in different type of sources, like whether directory, res, JSON, XML, CSV. You can collect those audit logs into one centralized repository, that is your audit vault. So that's the capability that you get more from the monitoring perspective. And another one is very important, which is detecting data exfiltration from the monitoring perspective. Reporting, alerting, we have many out of the box reports available, but one thing which I would really highlight here is our capability of giving you very powerful interactive reporting capability. Using that capability, you can really slice and dice data and reach to that one record that you would like to do forensic analysis. So this capability is very useful when you are doing some sort of a forensic analysis and you really need to point to one small segment of data out of your plethora of activities being monitored from hundreds of targets. So the powerful interactive reporting tool will give you this particular capability. Another capability which we introduced is Audit Insight. That's, again, I would like to highlight, most of our customers, they are talking about monitoring hundreds of databases, okay? Some are like 200, 300, 400 databases being monitored. And when you look at the reports, there are different type of reports out of box available. But for examples, for these many targets, customer really, struggle that where should I focus, what target should actually grab my attention. And keeping that in mind, we introduce Audit Insights. So we are giving you a dashboard. We are talking about top 5 targets, or top 5 basically targets where a lot of activities are happening, or top 5 DMLs happening across your databases, or top 5 privileged users who are doing a lot of activity on your databases, so that that, okay, I would like to focus here. Auditor will see that, okay, I need to look at these top 5 privileged users what exactly they are doing on the system, etc. So that's what we introduce, one feature of a dashboard of Audit Insight, and which our customers are using it and they really find it very useful. So that's another thing I would like to highlight from the reporting perspective. Alerting perspective, we have completely revamped our alert workflow in RU11. I will talk about that in detail in coming slides, but we have a policy-based alert engine, which means that you can go to a very specific alert that in very specific condition you would like to generate alert. That means that you are not bombarded with so many unwanted alerts or a generic alert. So you can really refine your alerts based on your policy conditions. Prevention protection, final layer, we are very unique from the capability that we do not rely on regular expressions. We are a solution which understands SQL grammar, and our approach is that you whitelist whatever the activities on your application, so that if there is anything apart your whitelisted conditions, we will block that. Okay, so that's what our approach is. Basis on profile of an application, you can block any deviation if you want. You can create that profile and block any deviation if you want. So overall, AVDF deployment looks like this. You have centralized Audit Vault server. You have different sources, whether database, operating system directories, or different custom sources. You can consolidate all audit logs coming from these different sources. Apart that, if you want to have network-based SQL statement monitoring, or you want to have a firewall layer or a protection or prevention layer, then you can put database firewall, which is a first line of defense for your databases. And we support these databases through database firewall, and all these network events also goes to Audit Vault server, and that becomes your centralized repository to store all your audit logs along with network events and define your policies, your reports, alerts, etc. Okay, so overall, this is how at high level your AVDF deployment looks like. So now let's talk about some marquee features in couple of last RUs. Okay, some new features from the AVDF perspective. Our focus was more on customer experience. That's why a lot of features which are really focusing on that, how our customer are using these capabilities. We should be able to simplify their workflow. Workflow should be very obvious, etc. Right? So some of the feature that we introduced, I talked about security assessment, risk management, audit insight. These star ones are the one which we introduced in our most latest release, that RU11. So very first one, we have improved auditor dashboard. So I will show you that we have revamped alert policy. Global set concept was introduced in database firewall in a couple of RUs back, and then we extended this capability into reports. So I will show you that functionality as well. We extended before after value to MySQL, apart from Oracle and SQL Server, right? From the feature expansion perspective, there's one very interesting thing I would like to highlight here is quick CSV. So we get a lot of requests that do we support so and so open source database which provide in different flavor of in different format, they provide their audit logs, etc. For example, so maybe in 400 target that customer is monitoring, it might be a couple of targets, okay, of customers using might be those couple of targets, those open source databases, but they would like to monitor, right? So we came up with the concept of creating a standard collector. So when we did research, we found that CSV is the most standard format that any database provide their audit logs in that format. So we introduced quick CSV collector in RU11, and that gives you capability to collect audit logs from different data sources, which can provide their audit logs in CSV format, map it in AVDF, and then you do the centralized monitoring or creating alerts, reports from the Audit Vault server itself. So I will talk about this feature. I will show you some screenshots, etc. There are other interesting ones if you have been using database firewall policy or alerts. So we have done some enhancement or refinement there. So I will talk about that. And there are operational tasks. So we are trying to simplify as much possible operational tasks for our customers. So let's look at some use cases that I will be talking about. Definitely fleet-wide security assessment with drift management, single sign-on integration with AVDF, database firewall policy commands, like matching with this exact one, like insert, delete, update. So I will talk about that. Creating alerts with all activity reports, using global sets into reports and database firewall, before after value change, collecting from non-standard audit collection format, etc. Right? So let's look at very first one, which is like revamped alert UI workflow. Okay, why do you need that? Our focus was to provide a very intuitive and user-friendly experience to our customers, so that you will be able to define your alert condition much quickly. Okay, so this is a dashboard which we have revamped it. The flow is very logical that you can quickly do it. Another thing in the condition, what we have seen that sometime our customers struggle to define these conditions, it's somewhat you should be a little bit aware of SQL statements and a where clause so that you should be able to define that. So we try to simplify that part. Now you have three options. One is that you copy condition from examples. So we are giving you some standard examples that we have seen. Our customers are generating alerts on those conditions a lot. So we have included those conditions as an example, and you can just select one of those and click here, and those alerts are there. The other one is that copy condition from alert policies. Many time I have seen that customer has many alerts policy defined, but only minor changes are there from alert policy 1 to alert policy 2. So what you can do that you can copy from another alert policy and then modify it, for example. So that reduces your implementation task way significantly. A very important one, and I would say my favorite one, is that create condition using reports. Okay, so I was talking about interactive reporting filter available in our all activity reports, etc. So slicing and dicing of data is very, very easy, right? You can say something like that, right? So for example, you go to all activity and you say that, okay, I want to have, I want to create an alert where user is this, event is update, and event status is success, okay? And the condition is created here. So you can quickly slice and dice data from the all activity report and copy that condition. And that condition is copied back to your, one second. Yeah. Yeah. So that condition is now copied back here on your condition. Okay, this entire condition. So that is very, very simple one to use it. So we have done more changes, like we have simplified notification, for example. We have streamlined our email template for notification of alerts, etc. But these are the major functionality from the conditions perspective, I would say that. Second part is fleet-wide security assessment drift chart. So we introduced security assessment in RU11, and then in RU10, we introduced drift management. But if you look at RU10 drift report, these are very comprehensive report. You get all the detail. But let's say if as an auditor, you want to have a quick look that how your drift is looking like compared to your previous baseline, that information kind of, they really need to go to the drift report, look at entire report, compare it, and come to know about it. So we had some summary reports, etc. So we try to bring that one in auditor dashboard itself. So if you have already defined baseline, okay, so let's say you have a target defined baseline, and then if you are running your different assessment at different time period, let's say quarterly or so, then you will have what is your baseline, what is the latest test pass, and what is the drift created, okay? Something like that. Okay, so you click on those particular, whether it is high risk, medium risk, or whichever the category of risk is there, you click on the drift and you go and you can quickly have a look that, okay, what is the drift created between my baseline compared to my baseline with my, let's say, current security assessment. So that's one functionality we introduced in our auditor dashboard. Another part which is very important, a lot of customers were talking about giving an integration with single sign-on. Okay, they should be able to use single sign-on capability. Their current, let's say, if they have single sign-on capability for other application, they are using any identity provider. They want to integrate AVDF also along with that. So we were already giving Active Directory LDAP or local AVDF user creation functionality, but from RU11 you have another option. That's your single sign-on option. What we are doing that you are able to integrate your identity provider through SAML 2.0 protocol. Right now we are supporting a couple of identity provider like Azure ID and Oracle Access Manager and ADFS, like Active Directory Federated Server. So, and if customer has these identity provider and they are using single sign-on, then they can extend to single sign-on, and in fact, they can even extend to multi-factor authentication if they are using that with their identity provider. So that's a very lot of organizations are asking for that single sign-on capability, and we have integrated with AVDF. Now, another functionality, if you're already using database firewall policy, and so you will be able to appreciate this more. What was happening with the database firewall policy, whenever you define database object rule, we had a standard command list here like DDL, DML, DCL, select, and there were a couple of more, right? So we were not really expanding it to specific commands under DML, for example, delete, insert, update. Whereas when there is an audit collection, like you are collecting audit logs from different databases, then your events are very specifically defined, whether this is delete, insert, update, etc. So what was happening, you have audit collection and you have network event collection both, but there was no uniformity between these two, right? So when customer is defining alerts, for example, they have to define two different alerts. They have to define one alert, for example, audit collection, and another alert policy for database firewall, for example. Or they really need to generate alert for everything under DDL or DML or DCL, not like specific command, for example, drop object kind of a thing. So we expanded that list, and this in database firewall policy itself. So you can really refine your database firewall policy for specific commands, and subsequently you can have a very uniform alert policy irrespective of how your data collection or audit collection is happening, whether through the database audit log or through the network-based SQL statement. So that's something we have unified it, and a lot of customers were asking this functionality. So that's why we have taken this functionality as a priority and implemented that. Another thing what we are doing, that use of global sets. So we introduced this concept in RU10. There are different type of global sets you can create, which subsequently you can use in database firewall. But now from RU11, you can use those global sets into reports also. So if, for example, in GDPR report, once you have discovered your sensitive objects using this functionality and created your global sets, now if you go to GDPR report, you can just see that, okay, these objects are part of, for example, this sensitive object global set. Okay, so you can look at what those corresponding global sets are. So you do not so that's the functionality we have introduced in GDPR report. And in all activity report, so in GDPR, you can specifically select sensitive object or sensitive data global set, whereas, one second, please. Yeah, sensitive data global set, whereas in all activity, you can select any type of global sets, all those 5-6 global sets that I talked about, and then you will have better visibility. Okay, this particular activity is happening, and the user set is from this, let's say, privilege user set, or this PCI user set, etc. So you can relate back to those global sets into the report. Before after value change report that's we introduced for non-Oracle databases. Like I said, that it's very unique capability of Oracle. We started with Oracle, and then we in last RU we extended it to SQL Server, and now in RU 11 it is expanded to MySQL also, where you can have a before and after value of a lot of data changes, and you can have that report that mainly required from the compliance perspective. Another feature that I was talking about, quick CSV collector. So for example, I was talking about different format, different open source databases are using different format to collect audit logs. For example, MariaDB or Enterprise DB from PostgreSQL, etc. So that's why we have selected a standard format that most of the vendors are collecting audit collection in that format. Using this quick CSV, you can first time you can upload and map your column values or column collection attributes within AVDF collection attribute. Once you have mapped that or different formats, for example, time, etc. Once you have done that, it will start collecting audit logs from your target, like MariaDB or Enterprise DB and any other target which provides audit log in CSV format. So you will start collecting that, and then once it is there in the Audit Vault server, it becomes a centralized repository where you can have your all activity report, you can have your alerts generated on different kind of activity, etc. Another thing from the operational perspective, some of our customers were facing issue was the certification rotation. It's not an issue, but it's just a very cumbersome process. Okay, some of the process we have, it's a lengthy process, and there are chances when customer is following documentation, you might miss some of them, and you might face certain issue. Okay, so we kind of try to simplify that process for you by introducing that certification rotation capability through UI, where you click single button whether you would like to rotate service certificate or CA certificate, and then in backend all the work happens. Okay, most probably CA certificate rotation happens once in 10 years, for example, but service certificate could be more frequently. So you can have a clear visibility that when your certificate is getting expired, whether it is valid or not, etc. So we are giving you that visibility, and then you can rotate that certificate through UI itself rather than following documentation and going through those cumbersome process of doing it. Trail migration is one functionality we introduced. Remember, we introduced previously, we came up with the agentless audit collection, right? So that was very good way without deploying any agent on the target or a remote system. That service is running within Audit Vault server, and you are just collecting audit logs from different targets. And that functionality was useful if you want to start small, or if you want to do some kind of a POC, or you want to test a new database, for example, before adding to the Audit Vault server, etc. So, but what is happening, let's say you have started with agentless collection, and later on you would like to move from agentless collection to the agent based collection. You want to migrate your trail. Okay, so we have simplified that process. You can do either ways. You can either migrate from agentless collection to agent based, or agent based to agentless. Both ways. We are giving you some recommendation also, because when you are changing this process, it might impact the sizing of your Audit Vault server. So we recommend that you should review that. However, we have made that movement very simplified from the UI itself, so that later on, if any use or your current load change, then you should be able to migrate your trail from one method to another method. So it's more from the adaptability perspective. Okay, that's more, again, from the operational perspective that Audit Vault Server internally uses Oracle database, and Oracle database has a functionality of trace file analyzer, which is like give you better detail of any diagnostic or the system challenges if there are any issues in the system. So these capabilities were there. User can enable it. It was optional earlier. It was not there earlier, then we made it optional, and now we have made it as default. So we anticipate that now when you are creating any SR, it will take much lesser time for support, because they are going to collect detailed information, whatever they want, using TFA, and it will help them for efficient and faster diagnostic on the AVS system. So how you can stay connected? Like I said, we run AVDF Cafe. You can scan this QR code. You can subscribe to AVDF Cafe channel. This one is for APAC, so you need to scan this very first QR code, but I run it in different time zone. Like, for example, some EMEA friendly and North America LED friendly also. So you can subscribe to whichever time zone is friendly for you. And whenever there is a new session available, you will get notified for that session. Whenever there is a new RU, we announce we announce it through blog. So you can monitor AVDF blog. You can scan below QR code, and every time you have new RU available, you will have new AVDF blog available. So you can scan that for documentation, support notes. You can scan below your code. Another thing, if you haven't done it, I'm very happy to tell you that AVDF LiveLabs are always updated. Okay, so for example, if we are releasing any RU, we are trying to make sure that our live labs are also available on the latest RU. Okay, so for example, if you want, whatever the features we talked about right now, if you want to really go through, experience that feature, AVDF LiveLab is available, and on RU11, so you can go and use it. And those who doesn't know what LiveLab is, so basically LiveLab is for you to something go and experience Oracle thousands of solutions. Okay, there are many database security solutions available through LiveLabs, along with AVDF as well. And you have two options. Either you can use for most of the labs, you have two options. Either you can use green button, where Oracle gives you some a portion of environment to use certain period, for example 4 hour or 6 hour, depending on the length of that particular lab, and then you can go and experience the solution through that live lab. Or it gives you option to deploy that lab in your own OCI tenancy. So either you can enroll for the free tenancy, or if you have paid tenancy, you can use it there. So it really depends what you wanted. And AVDF LiveLab is available for both options. We call it green button or brown button. Green button, where Oracle provides you some infrastructure and you go and experience it. That's a time limited. Whereas brown button is more, you download the stack and deploy on your OCI tenancy and experience the solution. That's for you to experience that how AVDF works, what functionality it has. And right now, LiveLab is available on the latest RU, that is RU11. So that's all I would like to, I wanted to cover from latest release of AVDF RU11. And those are the great features that we introduce in RU11, and we really like you to go and experience those features using LiveLab. And if you have any question, you can always come back to me.